Welcome to the Constant Struggle. I'm Nick Watson.
And I am Bree Watson.
And together we're struggling.
We're struggling on in the world of, balancing art and life and, keeping young humans,
Keeping young?
animals alive.
Yep.
And also, bringing art into this world. How about that? Does that count?
Yeah, no, that should count. I think that's what we're doing.
That sums it up, I think, nicely.
There you go.
I'm Bree. I'm an improviser and improv teacher, comedian, writer, currently based in the Niagara region. And this is Nick.
I'm a writer and I have a monstrous day job and live in Mississauga with 2 kids and a dog and my wife. I got the 2.5 now, Bree.
There you go. You're completely nuclear now. Amazing. So we're here. We're really excited to hang on. We're really excited for you to hear this episode with our guest today, which I'm not really going to get into it right now. I'm going to let you writhe in anticipation. Ooh, that's gross. I didn't like how that sounded.
We're keeping it, though.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. And this is episode 73 of the Constant Struggle podcast. You're soon going to hear an awesome interview with Gary Rideout Jr., owner of Comedy Bar and
the happiest place on
Toronto. Yeah. And among other things, right? He does other stuff. You'll find out. Just listen to the episode. But now we're going to catch up. We're going to let you know, keep you posted as to what our creative processes are looking like right now and how they're coming along. How about you, Nick? Nick, you're currently editing your book. Is that right?
Yep. Still plowing through that, but we're coming up on October and I gotta dive back into book 2 so I can get ready for November and write book 3.
For NaNoWriMo?
For NaNoWriMo, which is in November. It's in November. NaNoWriMo's in November.
So what do you mean by dive back into book 2?
Just remember where I was at in my story and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to go through my notes, find all my plot points and stuff like that. So I know how to arc my 3rd book.
Do you already have an idea? Do you already have kind of the whole...
I think I had notes. I think I wrote down where I wanted it to go and stuff.
Good.
I just got to find that.
Oh, awesome.
I'm pretty sure I know where I put it.
Okay, good. Did you save it on a piece of paper or on a computer somewhere?
I think it's on like the beautiful yellow legal paper.
Perfect.
Which all great writing is done on.
That's right.
And legal arguments too.
That's true. Wait.
Do lawyers still use that, do you think?
I don't think so. I think they use computers now.
No. That's disappointing.
Why? How come they had their own size paper?
I feel like it's a normal size paper though. I don't know.
Like letter is like regular letter size, and then legal is a little bit longer. Yeah. Why do they get their own size paper?
I don't know. Maybe it was like leftover from the colonial era or something.
This is crazy. I'm going to have to look into this. We're going to get an answer to this by the next episode. So that's good. You're editing. You're getting ready for NaNoWriMo. You're going to go back to your 2nd book in preparation for your 3rd book. That's exciting.
For the hat trick. Yep.
There you go. Wonderful.
How about you, Bree?
Yeah, we just had a really busy weekend here at Improv Niagara. We did our first show at a new venue in Welland, Ontario, which is interesting. The hometown show. But we're also excited because next month we're going back to our sort of home
spiritual
venue.
Home.
Yeah, which is Mate Cafe in St. Catharines, and we're really excited about that because that's kind of our dream venue. Then also a couple of us from Improv Niagara got to participate in the Niagara Falls Night of Art, which is basically Niagara Falls is like equivalent of Nuit Blanche.
Nice.
But
nice.
It doesn't go all night long, and it's spread out over a couple days.
It's evening gray.
That's right. And we got to do improvised art tours, which was a lot of fun. And we got to interpret all of the different exhibits that were on display and make shit up about them. It was a lot of fun. And the city of Niagara Falls paid us for it. So, you know what I mean?
Sweet.
Keep keep supporting the arts.
Government
you know
jobs.
I
You
mean?
probably got a pension for that. Everything.
Yeah, the pension from working 4 hours. It's something.
It adds up.
It sure does. Yeah. And then what else? A bunch of stuff. I think it's looking like some
Body
team
wants. Sorry.
told me. Yeah, it's looking like somebody once told me the world was gonna roll me. The corporate, I want to say corporate like workshops and team building and that kind of stuff seems to be
Coming
picking
back
up
or
again. Yeah, I think it's starting to pick up again. So that's I'm hopeful for that in the future. We've got a couple bookings in October. I did a workshop for
people
the
are ready to smell each other again.
That's right. I think so. And spit on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I remember of the before times.
Spit. Lots of spit.
Mhm.
We also, oh yeah, I got to do an improv presentation for the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce. Was a lot of fun. So we're just
Nice.
we're just getting out there and trying to do as much stuff as we can safely, of course. But I think it's kind of nice now that they've got the proof of vaccinations, to be honest, because you know that everybody in the building where you're doing your show is vaccinated. So there's less like looking over your shoulder and stuff.
Yeah.
That is provided that people don't sneak in from the side door or anything.
Wearing like their COVID burglar outfits.
That's right. That is right. So we're, I'm talking. And recently, this is exciting for the writing process. I recently started having a weekly writing date with a buddy of mine, Laura Johnson. Shout out. And we spend just an hour working on a writing project. And this week I looked at a scene from that screenplay I'd written, or for the pilot I had written, and I've completely like changed a scene that needed to be changed, which I think is putting me on the right path for getting a better ending out of it. So
cool.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so I mean it's not a ton of time, but at least like when we're there, we've committed to not doing anything other than writing, which sometimes is hard to do on your own. So it's good to have a buddy to help you. It's almost like a gym partner, right?
Yeah.
But it can happen on Zoom and you don't have to move your body at all except for your fingers. So that's my check-in. Then the only other thing to report is that I'm going to Banff tomorrow. Woo!
Alberta. Yay.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll be out in the mountains and away from people. And since we're vaccinated, I don't know. We'll just mask up and try to not get sick.
To avoid everyone else.
That's right. Luckily, it's our anniversary, so we can do that. We have a good excuse to do that. Everybody stay away.
Banff.
Yeah. So that's my update.
Nice.
What?
Should we roll into the epi then?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited about it. Nick, you seem to get a kick out of this. And did you see what I mean when I was like, you two kind of remind me of each other-ish?
Oh, I completely disagree. He's successful and he achieves goals that he sets out for himself.
Well, maybe it's just that you're both two white men who like sports. Maybe that's
okay, sure.
Connection.
Yeah. I mean, we do share that unique bond that is so very rare.
Well, you have goals and you work towards them.
And
they're just
never
different.
come close. Yeah, okay, sure.
They're different.
Yeah.
Like Gary hasn't written a novel as far as I know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This isn't the comparison pod.
This is like, let's take the steps down into the comedy bar, open up the door and absorb.
Take in the journey and the experience that is comedy bar.
It is a happy place.
A happy
and a silly place.
It is. And we're going to hear Gary Rideout Jr. tell us all about its humble beginnings, his experience, or I guess his, his timeline, his history, becoming a comic and, creating this space for all of us performers. And
maybe some hints at what's to come in the future.
Ooh, I like that teaser. If you want to find out what's going on, you're going to have to listen to the episode.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you.
but Gary will, so listen on. We're joined today by an awesome guest. I'm very excited to have him here. Owner of, the world famous comedy bar in Toronto, comedian in his own right, and now director of business development at Second City. Basically, if anything you do touches comedy in some way, Gary is responsible for it. Give it up for Gary Rideout Jr. Yay! Welcome.
Yay.
Thank you. Hi.
How's it
Not
going?
responsible. Would not
No,
say
not responsible, but in some way, I don't know, in some way, like if anybody succeeds in comedy, at some point they've performed at comedy bar and you're responsible for comedy bar. Ergo, you're responsible for their success.
You made these comedians happen, and it's on you. You're financially liable for them.
It is a direct link. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here.
Oh yeah. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Great. Cool. Nick, I'm at a kind of disadvantage because Nick knows probably nothing about Gary. I know what I've read that article about that like 10-year history of comedy bar article, so I might be a little bit ahead. So I feel like Nick's questions will be a little bit better suited for an audience who might not know Gary very well. So do you want to go ahead, Nick?
Well, let's start with a super basic one. Where do you hail from, Gary? Were you a Toronto guy or?
I grew up in Toronto. I was born in Halifax.
Okay.
I was here when I was 6 weeks old. So, it's Toronto since then, but like, my immediate family was here in Toronto, but like all my relatives are spread out throughout Nova Scotia. My dad's from Cape Breton. My mom's from mainland Nova Scotia. And yeah, so it's mostly an East Coast family, and then just grew up in East York. Went to high school at Yonge and Sheppard. Toronto kid.
Cool. So do you get to go back a lot to visit the family out east? Because that's a fun trip.
Yeah, not as much as I would like. As a kid, I got out there a lot more because it was like family trips, either in the summer or, for the holidays, and like around Christmas time. It was one or the other almost every year. Spent some good summers down there when I was 11, 12, 13, those like, outdoor kind of cool kid years. Like that stuff was fun. But yeah, it's tough, right? Life gets in the way, and it's hard to plan a trip out there. When you have a lot of relatives, you're not allowed to go and see just one. So it's like if you're going, and it's every town, on the way.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a ways to get out there too. So you have to have a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
I got a good pal from Cape Breton. That's like the closest thing to Newfoundland, I think, for not being in Newfoundland, right? It's its own kind of culture and identity there. Yeah,
that's right. It is completely Cape Breton's its own thing. It's funny. We were talking about comedy, and like I remember, we flew out. We've flown out there before, but it was a lot of like family trips in a car out there, like, and I talked about going the holidays, like driving in winter, and through Quebec, and like being through New Brunswick where it gets down to single lane, and you're small enough that you can barely see over the back windows, and like just like wild times, like getting a flat in the middle of nowhere and having to walk up to a farmhouse and like a tire or something, just like weird stuff. And I remember a lot after being a kid. I remember my dad, like, culturally, you're talking about Cape Breton, and my dad would play these like cassettes in the car that were like this like thing called like the Time Review or something like that. It was like an East Coast comedy thing from the 70s or 80s, and it was like they had song, like it was like it was like a sketch kind of review thing that had songs, and like I remember some of that stuff from when I was a kid, like in terms of being a comedic influence, was like finding this stuff so funny because I was like 7 or 8 years old, and it was like, I don't know, my dad finds it funny, so I find it
And so regionally specific too, right? Like I think that's a great thing to pick up when you're a kid, that no matter where you are and in what part of the world or in what region, you can bring a little something to it, something unique or something that represents your kind of region or locality. I know, like Welland, Nick and I are from Welland, and there's a lot of I think there's a lot of comedy around Welland. So I think we could.
Yeah, it's such a dark place. You need a good sense of humor.
It's really fine. But
It's getting better.
well, that's awesome. Yeah, going out east is such a lovely time. And then you went to high school. You said you're in high school in Toronto, in East York. You said, were you like the class clown? Were you involved in comedy in the high school level, or?
Yeah, like I went to an arts high school, and I was there the first year it opened. So
Oh, cool.
kids kind of went from all over the city. So, had I gone to the high school in my neighborhood, probably I don't know if my life would have taken the same path, but like, because I was in grade 7, taking transit for an hour to get up to Young and Shepherd, to go to the school. And then like, I was in the drama program, but like those first 2 years in 7 and 8, they made you take a term in, music and dance and all the other like arts, majors as well. And
I hope there is videos of little Gary dancing out there, because I want to see them.
Sure. Those exist for sure. We did I remember like a bunch of like the drama guys had to do like some weird like it was like the theme song to Rob Roy or something, and we all had swords. I don't know. It's like choreographed though. It's a real thing we did. And we did like huge musical productions where like all the departments would come together, and did some big shows. And so it was like really into the performance aspect of things from then. And did like at like assemblies would do like who's on first or something.
I feel like that probably set you up pretty well for Humber, because that kind of sounds quite a bit like the stuff that we did at Humber. And I know you went to Humber because you came to speak to us when I was a student there. Yeah. I think Andrew had brought you in to talk to us about probably Comedy Bar. Yeah.
I've done that a couple times. Like I directed the towards the end of second year, they do a final sketch show, and I've gone and directed that a couple times.
Nice.
Yeah, it was, I had a good time. I'd actually gone to Ryerson and done screenwriting as part of the film studies program. And, a lot of the other aspects of the program, didn't really resonate with me. And I was like partying, and I was young, and yeah, it was kind of a blur. We partied a lot, and I parked the parking pass at Ryerson for a year was $1,450. And I just parked wherever and got parking tickets the whole year. And at the end of the year, I didn't pay any of them. And then you used to be able to go in and plead your case. And so I went in with this huge stack of tickets and was like, I'm a student, blah, 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 all this. And they lowered the cost of the tickets to $1,000. And so I ended up getting to park in front of whatever building I had a class in and save $130 over the cost of the
That's just the kind of ingenuity I think that makes for a great, bar owner, community leader. Those are the life lessons that we need.
I mean, I don't think I won in the end. They got that, and all of a sudden you had to pay your tickets. But I had that small victory that one year. Yeah. I kept all the tickets too. I always thought it would be fun to do an art installation that was a paper mache life-size parking officer made of my tickets.
Yep.
I haven't done.
Put it on display in front of whatever office they have where you have to go in and plead your case.
Yeah.
Just title it "The Tyranny of Man."
Wow, amazing. Okay, so you went to Ryerson. You're partying a lot. That's what you do in university when you're young.
Yeah.
And learned about screenwriting. And did you go straight to Humber from there?
I did. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what the timing was. I don't know. Yeah, it was sometime at the end of the first semester or something, or that was when I saw the ad for Humber being a thing, and so then I applied there, and
Was it in
Yeah.
its kind of earlier stages? Was it still
It
the 1 year class, or was it still the 2 year one?
it
Or
it was we were at the North Campus,
okay,
so it was early for sure. And I think that year they had like a 1 year option or a 2 year option. And I think because I had the year at Ryerson, I could kind of pick. And
Mm.
I just thought 1 year wasn't going to be enough, so I did the 2 year. And then the 2 year was primarily full of people that were coming straight out of high school, and it's not a lot, but that difference of a year or whatever, I just felt a lot of pressure to um, expedite what I was doing there. And Pat Dorn and Tal Zimmerman were both there as well, and they'd both been in university prior to the program, and we
oh
just
great,
kind of gravitated towards each other as three people that were like interested in working in the industry before school ended. And so we ended up starting a sketch troupe together, and we started doing shows out. I think early on in the program, they from a philosophical standpoint, they hadn't really figured out if they wanted people participating in the community while they were at school or wanted them to wait until they were done and then be out in the community. And we were like already really pushing to get out there and do stuff, and
yeah,
having some success with that. We were doing shows, we would like rent Tim Sims Playhouse and like do a weekend of shows there. And so, we started getting, a little bit cocky about how we were doing in terms of that. And we you applied all the fringes in the fall for the following year, and we applied to a bunch of fringes and got out on the road, and
was
did
this
that.
was this Todd's lunch? Is my yeah, okay, I've seen the posters, but it was before I got into the Toronto scene. So this makes I'm like it. The timeline is adding up in my brain now.
Yeah,
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
were there any dedicated comedy places other than like a national chain kind of one?
Yeah, so Second City at the time was at 99 Blue Jays Way, which was this huge theater. They'd moved out of the fire hall into this huge theater, and it had these really high ceilings in it, and it was
Which is
funny.
great for comedy.
Yeah, well, here's what's funny. So it had this like amazing grid for the lighting, and at the time, Second City had also was one of the final bidders for Comedy Network against Bell. Like when
Ah,
it was going to be a channel, they were also bidding to get the channel. And so people put
Oh,
these packages together with like all these people like pledging allegiance to like this is who getting letters of support or whatever. And so Bell had gotten a huge group of people to support their bid, or CTV or whatever. They'd done like they had a guy, this guy Joe Bodolai, and he got all these like comics out west and everyone, and they committed to this idea of regional programming, and so they got all the different regions of the country to support their package. And Second City had all their famous alum people supporting their pitch for it. So I
yeah.
always thought when I went into that big space, I always thought like, oh, they probably built it this way so that it was ready for TV production in the event that they
Right.
got bid or whatever. And
Yeah.
so a couple of years ago, when I started helping with, looking for a new space in Toronto for Second City, and, we were looking at different spaces around the city or whatever. And I had this conversation with Andrew Alexander, and I was like, I always thought it was like that because you guys had the TV bid. And he's like, oh, no, that was just a mistake in the drawings. I couldn't tell that that's what it was going to be until we were in.
you don't understand the layout of the picture. So
Yeah.
oh,
It was
wow.
very funny. It was
Oh
very
man, that's great. Oh yeah, I'm excited to talk about the new location and stuff. If we could get into that in a bit, but let's stick with the chronological order here because
Yeah.
I think that's exciting. That
Yeah.
works.
So we got out on the road doing the Fringe tour, and we didn't really know what we were doing. We put a running order together for our sketch show. Like we started in Montreal, and we were driving we finished a show in Toronto, like as a fundraiser, and then we got in this van and we're driving out to Montreal, and we were like, oh, we'll put the running order together and get there. And the show wasn't like fully fleshed out yet. Like
Oh,
we just
that's
thought we're funny, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And we had this reviewer come, and you can kind of go from east to west. There's
Yeah.
a few that fall out of sync, like the Atlantic Festival, but like in general, they'd line themselves up that you could go festival to festival if you wanted to. And so, we were supposed to be in Winnipeg a couple weeks later, and this reviewer, all the fringe shows that were also going to be in Winnipeg, he would like fly out early to Montreal and see all these shows, and you would be reviewed when you got there. And so we showed up, a couple weeks later in Winnipeg. We were pulling into town. We'd stopped at a gas station, and then like I was getting gas, and then Tal went in to like buy something in the store, and then came out with had like a ghost white face. And I'm like, what? And he's like, he didn't want to talk. Like he just did. And then like we looked at the paper, and we had a 1-star review. Like just we had God. And it was a different show by the time we'd gotten there. Like we had 8 shows in Montreal to figure out what the show was. And we'd gone to, we did Montreal, we came home to Toronto, did some shows, not in Fringe, just did some shows. And then we went and did the Thunder Bay Fringe, which was insane. And then
I didn't even know they had one. I didn't know there was a Fringe in Thunder Bay.
Yeah, like a 3-day weekend. They have this really cool theater there. I think it's called the Magnus. But we were across the street from that in the basement of this like community center. And we had this tech guy, and he was like, I get all the big shows. And we're like, you guys are probably a big show. And we're like, okay. And there was like 150 chairs in this basement. He's like, I'm going to add more chairs. Don't worry. And then of course we opened to like, 15 people or something. And like, one of them was our bill. So like, we had 2 billets. We had to set like somebody wouldn't take us all together. So we and Pat was staying with like this guy that was like, Bill Murray and Caddyshack, but he was like renovating his own house. And so like this guy would be at 6 a.m. start like working on like would come up with these like sugar donuts from like, the gas station.
Yeah.
Came up and offer them to him, and then start like renovating his house. And like Tal and I were staying with like this incredible baker who was just like the nicest lady in the world. Like we were like dream location. So like, but then she came to see the show, and like obviously we were these absurd idiots shit, and then the relationship changed immediately. Like,
no.
You could just tell she was like, I made a mistake. I thought I was, like you think you're like, I imagine for someone local, they're like, oh yeah, these cool artists are coming to stay with me. And then you're like, oh no, it's these buffoons.
Whatever. You signed a contract. Keep making me these cookies, lady.
So, she was great, but like she was certainly, you could tell the show wasn't what, she had hoped. And then, but anyway, we got to Winnipeg. We were a different show by then. It was funny, like in Thunder Bay, we had these flyers that said that our show was banned in 75,000 countries, which was like, and you would hand the flyers out to people, and they would go, "Wait a minute, there's not 75,000."
Yeah. Oh shit, you're right.
So anyway, after Winnipeg, we stripped down, we took out the show title because we had to pick the show title in like
like before the show's even ready. Yeah.
So we just had some dumb show title that I picked. It was terrible. And then so then we just called it Todd's Lunch, and we like made a different poster. And then we took that guy's terrible review, and we like, pulled a quote from it that was like vague enough that made it sound good. So like he sarcastically said something like, among their big comic revelations is this idea. And we just put big comic revelations. Like, and so then we got it, by the time we got to Victoria, the exact same show, we were getting 5 stars and won the best comedy in Victoria and Vancouver, and like had all these lineups outside. But like, we were living off like a jar of peanut butter and a loaf of bread for 3 days in this van to cross the country, and like so broke. And then all of a sudden we were a hit and had these crowds, and like it was like, we couldn't believe it. Like it just
what a success story. That's amazing.
Incredible learning, just an incredible learning experience, learning about marketing, learning about, simplicity in marketing, who your audience is, who you're performing for. Just great lessons when you're like in your early 20s. So
were there comedy boards online and stuff like that? Like, how did people know what shows were good out with like Exclaim magazine or whatever those reviews would have been?
Yeah, I mean, that was it. You had your nows and your exclaims or whatever, and then you had, you just flyered. Like we just flyered. We would like at Fringe, you just like stand in lineups and flyer people, and people, you know, in Winnipeg. So the Imponderables were another sketch group in Toronto, and they, you know, a couple of them went to Humber, and they were like, you got to get out on Fringe. That's how to do it. And like, you know, they ran it very professionally. They did well. So we went out on Fringe. And then when we didn't get into the lottery in Winnipeg, they're like, well, we do a BYOV there. You should do it. And it was this venue called Prairie Theater Exchange, which again is like a 350 seat, like in the round, like 3-sided, you know, theater. And like, again, we got there with this 1-star review, and it's like way off site. And like, so we made the reviewers name the password to our show, like for people. And we were flyering this lineup one time. We're like, hey, say this name, you get in free. And we're like going along the line, and I went to hand the flyer to this girl, and she goes, yeah, I know. Say my dad's name, we get in free. Like, it's a bet. Like by the end, we were getting like 60 people a show, and we considered that a huge win.
Yeah.
To have 1 star and go from 15 to 60 meant the word of mouth about it was better than, you know, what
the review killing you guys.
Yeah. And, you know, I will say too, for me personally, like I'll take a 1 or a 5 over a 3. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, nice. Yeah.
Rather you be passionate about what you think about what I do, whether you love it or hate it, rather than go, yeah, it was all right.
Than just mediocre. Yeah.
Yeah.
Middle of the
line. And I think that matters for people going to watch stuff too. They're like, oh, it's a train wreck. I'll check that out. So, you know, yeah, we did all those shows, and we ended up doing it again a second year. And we felt like we had more consistent houses the second year. People were a little harder on us because of because of that first time. Like the people that loved it the first time thought it was brilliant, and so the next time out the expectations were higher, and we tried to do something a little more conceptual, and they liked it, but it wasn't, it was 4s and not 5s and stuff like that. And so, but the people, the fans who liked us, like, and I'm saying fans, but like for real, all the same audiences that came a year before came again. And like,
dude, that's like a band. It's like an album coming out of.
Like in Victoria, we were in this venue that was like a former like conservatory music school or a converted venue or whatever. And we were outside one day, and all this huge group of dudes were all like smoking a joint or whatever. And we're like, what are you guys doing? And they were like, we heard this is the show to smoke weed and go to. And we're like, cool.
Hey, that is a win. Yes.
Yeah. So like, that was kind of the reputation for like the absurd, like, the kind of absurd style of our humor. Right. And, yeah, so that was fun. And we wrote a self-referential musical about our sketch, which we performed in the in-between year between those 2 years we toured, and it was called Talk Lunch the Musical. And I went back to people I knew from high school, a composer from high school, and was like, what are you up to these days? Do you want to write these songs for us? And a choreographer from high school was like, can you choreograph this? We got a bunch of comedian friends of ours from Humber. Flossie and the Jube Jubes was a sketch troupe that was like Dan Gallia and Grant Cumming and Craig Brown and Bob Kerr. And we were like, do this with us. Or so all our friends together, like doing a big dumb show. And Glenn Sumi came and did a great review. And
amazing.
But it was this like ironic, again, like a lot of it wouldn't pass today, but it was like silly and absurd, but and super self-referential. But that was a lot of fun. And we at the end of the second year, we did shows out in Vancouver, and then Tal had to fly home for something. But Pat and I drove down to LA, and we saw the Groundlings while we were there.
Ooh.
And they had a live band on stage, and this big cast, and we had just kind of done that with. Like a lot of the band for our musical was like friends of Tal's that, played in real bands and stuff, but loved to get together and jam for us doing the show. And we were driving back from LA, and we were just like, man, we could do that. We could have like a sketch show every week. And at the same time, Dan Gallia had like booked a run of shows at the Rivoli on Sunday nights, like that was starting later that year or had just started. And, Pat Calden was like, we want to do this weekly sketch thing, and we should get together and figure that out. And then we were kind of going to meld that. And then we had run the musical we'd done. We ran at the Poor Alex in the Annex, and I was like, I think we should switch over there. So the first 2, so we started Sketchersons. We got a big group of people, and we, our first show was January 4th, 2004 at the Rivoli. And we did the 2 Sundays at the Rivoli, and then we switched to the Poor Alex, and we were at the Poor Alex for about 2 years running the show. But it took about, 4 months to get the momentum going, where like all of a sudden there was like lineups around the building, and
amazing.
We were able to get like, Toronto comedy celebrities to host the show and want to be a part of the show. And it was like, it was just a thing that like, I'm not sure if it was like bridging a gap to getting people to like participate in someone else's show, like, so getting Scott Thompson to host. And it's like, now Scott will go around and play a lot of shows, but at the time it wasn't like that. So it was kind of a big deal that we were like, asking Colin Mockery to come do this. Colin was doing a sketch with us, and like his phone rang, and it was Deb calling him to remember to pick something up on the way home. He like call in the scene and then like put back, and like,
oh man, that's adorable.
Just like,
wait, did the kids in the hall play Riv? Like, is that where they?
That's where they started.
Yeah.
So I feel like if anybody's gonna understand, the kind of hustle you guys were going through, having a host like Scott running it or hosting and coming in and participating, that makes a lot of sense. It's like you're bridging the history of this, comedy in Toronto too.
Yeah. So it was, and like in a way, we also, we charged $5 for the show, and the money all went back into the show. Like we would use it to pay for promo and keep the show going. And
this show's been going on ever since then, right? I mean, other than the current situation with the pandemic, has it started back up again?
No, not yet. But
you can't have that many people together in a room yet.
It was, it was very irreverent. It was just this thing, and I don't know, we didn't really know what we were doing, but we just knew we wanted to like push hard to do something that nobody else was doing, and we liked the discipline of forcing ourselves to write a new show every week, and it got a lot of press and a lot of attention. And I always said if that was something that we'd done in New York or LA or something, it would have been they would have pulled us out of that and given us a TV show. But Canada's like, we'll take you something here, and you'll do something. Everybody went and got a lot of the people from that show work professionally in the industry now, but it never collectively was allowed to be the thing it was, which was unfortunate.
Were you doing a day job all that time as well?
Yeah, I was doing I wasn't doing a day job. I had a lot of odd jobs. I worked at my dog's barking. I'm in a room where I can close the door, so we'll be on the move here for a minute. I was a valet at High Steakhouse, and Pat's parents owned a moving company, and so a few of us would all work as a packing crew for the moving company. Like, it was like, an upsell for people that wanted someone else to come in and do their packing for them.
Yeah.
So it was always a bunch of comedians and someone like rooting through their stuff and like, packing it up.
Well, you got to put a lot of trust in people.
It was a ridiculous job, but it was, it was fun. So I did that.
Okay, so now we've got Sunday. Well, there was the Sketchersons. When did it switch to Sunday Night Live, or was that just sort of always the same?
Yeah, that was always it. We called it that. We were just like, it was sort of that lesson we got on the road, when we were like simplifying the title of our show for the public to understand. We were like, we're going to do this live show every week, and we're going to write new material every week. We'll just call it Sunday Night Live, because that's the easiest and quickest way the public will understand what we're doing.
I get it. It's like that Saturday Night Live show, but on a different day. Perfect. And so at what point do we find our home away from the Poor Alex and into comedy bars? That happened pretty soon after?
There was we showed up one Sunday morning at the Poor Alex, and there was like locks on the door, the building was, they put the building up for sale, and I called the new owner, like I was able to track down who had bought it, and I gave them a call and was like, hey, can we just keep doing our show here? And they were like, well, we're gonna, we're just like, they were waiting on like whatever permits or whatever they were gonna do,
Yeah.
like whatever decision they were gonna make. So we were the only thing in the building for that lasted for about 8 more weeks, where like we did get to keep going as the only thing in the property. And the old owner had ripped out most of the stuff. So it was like, it was a stereo system from my house as the PA, and the lights were a bunch of like, regular lights and Christmas stuff, and like checking the show, a power bar and plug, and like, all these like outlets. It was very homemade for those 8 weeks or so. And then we showed up finally one day, and they were like, no, we've started like demolition work. We're gutting. And so again, no notice. So we went across the street to the Brunny, and there was a guy like mopping up over there. And I was like, can we do a show here tonight? Have people coming, like we have a crowd coming. And he was like, oh, you got to call the owner in Ottawa. And so like he put me on the phone with this guy, and I was like, hey, we're going to do a show here tonight. 100 people will be here. And, I don't know, you'll sell $1,000 at the bar. And he's like, can you sell 2,000? And I was like, sure, man. no idea if we could, but I was like, yeah, man. And then he was like, all right, great. I was like, you just need one bartender here and like this guy if you want. And like he was kind of like a manager at the time. And they were like, okay, great. And so we did it. And we had a huge party that night to make sure we hit this number. And then they called me, like the management called me the next day, and they were like, do you guys want to keep doing that? And we were like, yeah. And because like, we liked staying in the neighborhood. It was immediately across the street from where the tour had been, so the audience knew where to go. And that back room had this neat stage in it, and there was 100 chairs in the basement. We would have to walk 100 chairs out of the basement every week to set up. And we built these flats as the wings of the stage. And but there was this like VIP area that went along the back wall, and it was like an L shape to the stage in the corner. And so once you got past this, like, I had one curtain that we hung next to the black, and that was our backstage. But like at the Poor Alex, we always did the show first downstairs, and then we went to the bar upstairs and had an after party after, and we would have our musical guest play, and then we would have karaoke or something like. But when we got to the Poor Alex, we were like, we can just go grab a drink while we're doing the show, and everybody got looser and like.
Oh, nice.
Because you could go grab a pint and you're like leaning over the railing watching the scenes with the audience. Like it was like the energy was so great in there. And then they were like, could you do anything on other nights? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so, we started running Wednesday nights where we were I'd started with 4 different troops having a monthly, and then I doubled those nights up. So it was 8 troops, and it was 2 every Wednesday, having like an 8 and a 9:30 or whatever. And that was like the start of me figuring out that like there was an appetite for a gathering place for everyone to do comedy in the same place. And so
God, you guys, that's like a unicorn landing at that guy's bar. It's like, oh, would you like lots of money from out of nowhere?
Well, the Brunny was like, I mean, for them, probably Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they were doing, $10,000 a night of like student drinking, and then they were closed the rest of the days. So like, or 5,000, whatever it was, you know what I mean? Like our number was a small number, but they were closed those days anyway. So like, you're having Wednesdays and Sundays and making it a 5-day week for them when it used to be a 3-day week. They're like, it's just free money, right? So they liked it. And we had free reign to sit someone at a table by the front, and there's like a little curtain there, and they were able to charge for tickets. And that was that was, like I said, that was the start of figuring out that like everybody wanted to, when I started in comedy, like I said, you could like rent Tim Sims maybe once every 6 months to get a run there, and you could do a show at Clinton's. But a lot of the nights were up at Clinton's. Like Pirate Video Cabaret was a weekly Sunday show there. The Rib had the Alt on Mondays, and at one point the Sketch Dot had started being like a sister show to the Alt on Mondays, and it was on Tuesdays. It's called the Sketch Dot. But otherwise, when it was only the Alt on, you could only get on once every 3 or 4 months as a sketch troupe. And
because it's mostly stand up. Yeah.
And then the Sketch Dot helped get more troops, going.
You were always more into sketch, eh, Gary? You never did you ever try stand up, or did you get into improv? I guess Catch 22 is your big improv.
Yeah, I did a little bit of stand up, maybe for about a year. which is obviously not enough time to get really good at it. But I also, I wasn't, I love storytelling, and I love putting emphasis in the right part of a story to make it funny for people. But I have a hard time, apparent spontaneity is like the key to stand-up, is acting like you just thought of it every time.
Yeah.
And I don't fake that very well. Like I didn't, I just would hate my own material after I'd done it a couple times. And,
that's important for comedy, hating your material.
I'm sure that's true of everyone to some extent, but I just felt like, you have to go out there and you start pretending that it's this new idea every time. And it's like, and whatever, the people who do it are so great at it. And to be able to see someone with the nuance of how they're able to do that, or how they're able to make it feel fresh for themselves every time by altering it slightly, but still having it hit the way they needed to. Like, I'm so impressed by all of that. For me, it was like, to be authentic, I got really busy with, running comedy bar, and that sort of, like, I had always kind of like turned my nose up at improv, because I always felt sketches is the thing you write and improv is the thing you do for free after. But when I got busy, improv became like this outlet where you could be often, just truthful and honest, and you could play, and you could just show up and play, like, and so that made a big difference. And what I like, look, I'm not a great improviser, but like, what I do like is that my experience with sketch and the hundreds of sketches I wrote for doing Sunday Night Live for years and years and years and years was like that I can recognize the arc of a scene, the beginning and the scene. And so in playing an improv scene, it was always, I always could see the ones and zeros of where it could go or where it should go. And it's like, you're sort of improvising your way through an unscripted sketch, right? And in terms of good short form improv. So that's why I always felt like I was at least comfortable being in it, that I could tell a story.
Yeah, that's one of the things, like, teaching now. I'm kind of like, they're just going to let this go on they don't know. We have to end now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the pressure to tell a story and have an arc and often find your ending in the beginning is like, that in itself is a skill to learn. So, and sometimes when the script, sketch writing was the training wheels, and it was the sort of the guardrails for understanding what that was, so.
Yeah. I imagine for like writing longer scripts and stuff too, writing sketches like a great way of sort of learning to compress it into a tight, full-fledged story as much as you can.
Well, even, like Tommy Boy was on TV this morning, and it's just like so many scenes are bits, like so many of the scenes are like that, they can stand alone as this great segment within the overarching plot. And you're like, yeah, it's great. Like, you can pack this full of stuff because where you're trying to get to, and which parts add to that, and which parts would be, how many bits they probably tried and we're like, okay, that pulls too far away from the plot,
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess if you've got all of these like really great sketch comedians and writers writing that show or that movie too. Okay, well, that reminds me, because you mentioned with Sunday Night Live, it didn't sort of pan out as one full-fledged ensemble TV comedy, but you did get to create that ensemble comedy with Comedy Bar, right? How did that come about, and how was that experience? Oh, sorry, Nick, am I jumping ahead?
I want to know, like, what it was like right before Comedy Bar happened. Like, you found out you got a location. What's it like going there and checking it out, and then imagining what it's going to be? Ooh. Or was there another Comedy Bar before Comedy Bar, or was that it?
No, that was it. We were like, we were doing shows at the Brunny. After the Brunny, we went to Diesel Playhouse. So they had the Second City had closed at that location, and they decided to open it as Diesel Playhouse so they could run Evil Dead there. And Evil Dead ran there forever, Evil Dead the musical, but then they were like looking for other supplemental stuff to have in there. And we're a great thing because we were Sunday nights, And so, one of the producers running that space came to see us at the Brunny one night, saw our big crowd, and was like, "Do you want to come do this down here?" And I was like, "Here's what we need. We need our own office. We need a place to have rehearsals, and we need you to hire us a publicist because we don't want to do it for ourselves anymore. And if that, we'll come in there and do it." And so they agreed to all that, and we moved in, and we had like an office on the second floor, and that's where we went and had our read-throughs. And because prior to that, we were doing them at this place called the Eagles Club near like Yonge and Dundas. That was like this like private version of like a Legion,
right?
And so, this way we got our own space, and we were borrowing off other people, and we were able to rehearse there. And
Gary, where does this business savvy come from? Because most comedians don't have the wherewithal to be like, this is what we need. You know what I mean? Does that come naturally to you, or did you take classes? Where did that? Because that's.
I honestly don't. I don't know. I did, I don't know. Like it was, like I remember in high school, we would go to Wasaga Beach all the time for like meal on weekend, and then as soon as we knew how to as soon as you could start burning CDs and like downloading music, I knew like we used to go to the government, which was like one of the, I did a lot of clubbing. I used to go out a lot. And so like, Mark Oliver was a DJ there, and we would get like the names of tracks from him before like they were really out there. And then we download these tracks, and like I put this album together, and printed a cover for the CD in like a case, and we sold CDs all weekend. Like we just had loud systems in our cars, and we would and pump these songs that people knew from clubs in Toronto that they didn't know where they could get, and then people would come buy these CDs off me for $20.
Oh man!
So I don't know, like you know what I mean? I don't. When you ask about it, it's like I was always. I don't know. It's not like I don't think there was anything like uncouth about any of it. It was just
you just have this kind of entrepreneurial gene.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So I just always feel like I don't like sitting and waiting for someone else to decide for how something can happen for me or not. And so if you're sitting, like I always said, if you're creating your own work, then you're never out of work. So that was kind of the motivation. And that hustle was like, let's make our own shows, let's produce our own shows, and it just kept evolving more and more from that,
I love that.
Yeah. So, we were at Diesel for a bit, and then, the Brunny thing, I was still running the Wednesday nights for other people up there. And, that was, I don't know. My friend James, who's my business partner at Comedy Bar, he'd been working at RBC for years, and a friend of ours had like opened this like meat distribution thing in like Woodbridge thing, and how you get invited to a stag in Woodbridge is a guy walks in and goes, "Here's 10 tickets. You have a table worth of seats, $1,500. Give me $1,500, and your job is to find 9 other friends to come with you." And then you go to the stag, and the prize is like a Harley Davidson or something. And like, it's like hundreds of people that don't know the guy getting married, but it's all for the person getting married, right? Like, so we got invited to this stag, and we all went up there with our buddy, and we were all sitting around. James was there, and he was like, he'd been working at the bank a long time. And he's like, I want to open my own business. Like, he was looking at doing something sort of like a Sporting Life kind of thing or something like that. And I was like, we should do this comedy thing, man. Like I'm running these shows everywhere, and other people are, at like doing well off of it, and everybody's asking us to like bring them stuff, and and I was like, and comedy gets the last pick, like all these venues that are like, hey, come do comedy here on the Monday night, this band on the weekend, whatever. And I was like, we need a thing where comedy can be the main thing.
Yeah.
And so he was like, well, I'll write up a business plan, and if it looks good, like we'll try it. So, he sent me a link to the RBC website to like samples of what business plans look like.
Wow.
And he took it and made it real because I wrote it, you know, like I was telling a story, and he had to make it look like a legitimate business thing.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm now outside the door.
Aw. Does he want to does he want to be let out?
Yeah, well, yeah, the back door's open.
He just wants love.
Yeah. I'll leave the door. I gave him a bone at the start of this, but I guess he chewed through it already.
It's a big dog. He, probably goes through them pretty quick. Oh, pretty puppy.
But okay. Yeah, so so we worked on the business plan, and yeah, we ended up getting someone to give us a little bit of money, and I think our initial borrow was like $35,000, and but by the end it ended up being like almost times that.
How many times that? Sorry, you cut out.
About 12 times that much. Like it was
holy shit.
Ended up being almost $400,000. But we didn't know that at the time. We thought like, oh yeah. And what happened was we were doing those shows at Deal, but then on Wednesday nights we would all load into cabs and go up to Hurricanes to do karaoke. And I was walking back to the subway from doing karaoke at Hurricanes, and there was a for sale sign in the window of this Eritrean restaurant at Pool Hall. And the first time I walked by it, I looked at it and thought about it, and I kept going. And then the week I walked by again, I was like, I'm going to go look in there. And then, from outside, it didn't look like much. But once you get down the stairs and inside, it opens up and there's a bunch of space. And I was like, oh, this could work. And so
I imagine just like angelic voices calling you in.
We made the deal with these guys. This is Hudson, you're unbearable. So we made the deal with these guys, and then to your point, we were like waiting around to get started. We thought we were going to paint, like put on a fresh coat of paint and open in 6 weeks, and instead we had to gut it, and it was like operating illegally for years. Like it wasn't even like there was no ventilation system. We had to let's all the floors and do proper plumbing, and so we gutted it to nothing, and it took 55 weeks until we opened again.
Holy shit.
So, and it was like a full proper, everything that you could expect to have to be done in one of those like reno shows, it happened.
Oh
my God.
And Julie Dumais was doing Project at the time. We were doing those shows at Unit 102 on Wednesday night, and then we would go from Unit 102 up to karaoke. And she wanted to do the Combustion Festival in May of that year, and we got Comedy Bar I think in October 23rd of 2007, and we didn't open until November 8th of 2008. But earlier in 2008, around May, Julie wanted to have this Combustion Festival, and of course when we got the space, I'm like, yeah, book it, go, we'll be ready by then. And then all these flights were booked and people were coming, and we had to go to our contractor and go like, which was James's dad, and go like, hey, like we have to have this improv festival here in 2 weeks. And he was like, absolutely not. And I was like, well, it's happening. So we have to do what we can do to make this place safe. And then he was like, well, I'm taking that week off where I'm not coming in here at all, and we'll just get it as ready as we can get it. But the washer had no ceiling on it, and like there was like one single toilet people would line up at, and then we had another toilet that was the one we used for construction, but we just put a blue tarp around it, and I was like, okay, anybody can only pee in, guys in line, if you're peeing, okay. It was like the bar, a folding table with a couple buckets of ice and bottles of beer in it. We were just like, you know what I mean? And that was, but it gave us the revenue to finish the rest of the job. So
amazing.
Oh, shit.
As far as Comedy Bar goes, hopefully our listeners are familiar with it and they love it and they come frequently and they've started coming back now, and it looks incredible what you've done to it over the course of the pandemic. So coming back to it, it's almost like this fresh, beautiful new space. What about and now you've got a new role with Second City as well.
Yeah, we should end with the new project, Avery, and then
talk struggles, or I guess we've mentioned a few.
I think we've covered some struggles. Like,
okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. So we've got comedy bars back open now. And sure, there are some restrictions, and sure, people have to, show their proof of vaccination, that kind of stuff now. But yeah, what do you want to know, Nick, about the new project, or shall I?
How's it coming along? Are you
How is it
excited?
coming along? And by the new project, we're talking, of course, the new Second City's new home that you had to help find, and are now kind of responsible for so much of it.
Yeah. So, it's been fun. That space, there's kind of two things going on. We're working on a new comedy bar location in the East End.
Of course, I'm sorry. Yeah,
That's what I meant. Sorry.
So many exciting things.
And so for the first little while, Second City is going to do shows there, while we finish building the Second City Theater. And Second City has new owners. The new owners are really excited about the market here, and seeing the architectural drawings for the place in Toronto was a huge a huge part of the sale for them.
And they understood the drawings.
Yeah, that's right. so they're very excited about it, and so we've started very early on in them coming on board with the company. They were like, yeah, let's get that going. And so the renovations have started, and it's a very big property, and it's a long build process, and right now there are mostly like supply chain issues for material.
Right.
Oh shit, yeah.
Of course.
Which is why we like put the timeline out till mid next year kind of thing, because we're like anticipating that things are going to take longer. At Danforth, for our HVAC units, they're built in Texas, and Texas, since they had that power outage thing earlier in the year, they've been behind delivery schedule on. We ordered those units 16 weeks ago, and they're going to get here this week.
Wow.
So normally it would take less than half that time. So there's just everything, like metal studs. The price has gone up for materials, but also the availability. You kind of get what they can get to you because of supply chain. So
yeah, tell us a little bit more about the new location in general, and what we can expect once all of the things that you need are in place in there.
I mean, we had to leave Mercer Street because they were building condos. I think the cool thing about 1 York Street is that it already is a condo, so we won't be forced to leave.
Nice.
Oh, I meant comedy bar. I meant the new comedy bar.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fun space too. It was a furniture store, and now it's not.
So the chairs are there.
Yes,
comfy beds to sit on and watch the show.
Right. Yeah. The whole audience is just spread out mattresses, like just kind of chill out with a pillow, and it was we kind of had like we've been interested in doing this for a while, because as like getting a show at comedy bars can be difficult. Like there's a lot of demand from the community to have shows there, and
that reminds me, I gotta get Guess Who running again, Gary. We could talk about that anyway.
but that's the thing, right? Is like it's there's demand there, and I always feel like I'm letting people down when I don't for them, because it's just and it's. I think every single person is like, oh, I don't know why he doesn't like me or something. It's like the spots are gone. I just don't have any, you know what I mean? And I have a hard time, I should just reply to people right when they email and be like, I don't have anything, but I try really hard to make it work, or to see if I can shift something to make it work. So then sometimes it takes me longer to get back to someone because I don't want to disappoint them.
Yeah.
And
you probably have a cajillion people writing to you at all times.
It's pretty, like, the demand is pretty high, like, and a lot of people are good producers. I love everyone's ambition, and I love the model. Like, I love the idea that, again, it comes from my own sense of needing to work for yourself and not wait for someone else to book you. Mm-hmm. And so if people have that ambition, there's revenue to be made, and I think I'd love to be able to do more of that. there's been also been comics who are like, can I put you down as a reference so I can get a mortgage for a condo because
Wow.
I make money at Comedy Bar? And I'm like, great, that's great. Yeah, like I love that.
Oh.
You know, we're never going to be your entire revenue stream, but if we can be a part of, you know, the that you make every year that supports your lifestyle, I appreciate that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I told you, Gary's responsible for people's success and
but yeah,
livelihood. One thing I think is very interesting about the new location is that it looks accessible, and that seemed to be an issue that came up a lot at Comedy Bar, at least the one at Ossington. So is this one going to be a little bit more? I know we're jumping into. I should have maybe
it
warned you
is.
about
Yeah.
this question.
You know, this is, and it's something I like. It's so funny. You know, it's not funny, but like when the pandemic was happening, one of the conversations I had with our city councilor in the West End was like, you know, there are like funds for this kind, to convert your space, and they've just been closed the whole time. And I'm like, while all our businesses are closed, wouldn't this be a good time to be investing in this kind of like infrastructure and upgrades?
Yeah, man.
And you know,
Nick just applauded. He stuck back and applauded.
no, but you know what I mean? Like I said,
Yes.
I was like, right now we're all closed anyway. This is when to do the work, because the big hindrance to do it is that it's very expensive. Like sometimes it's not possible based on the physical space that you have, but it's also very this dog, honestly. Sometimes
he's trying to like, he wants to hype you up. That's what he's trying to get in on it.
It's gonna work here. He won't like it.
Oh, look at him.
So you know, it's yeah. So it's it's expensive, but we should all be doing it if we can, and if you can physically make it fit, and then. But the other thing is time. Like if you don't want to, like if we're open every single day at Comedy Bar, so you're gonna close to like for how long while someone does the work, right? And I was like, that's one box you can check off and go like, hey, we're already closed. Let's get everyone like up to code, like, and it just fell on. It just didn't work. But. So, it's still something I'd like to address in the West End. It's very difficult based on the fact that we have, a half riser of stairs, then a landing, and then a second riser of stairs. Once you're inside, we could probably figure some things out in terms of ramps. And, we have 2 staff washrooms and we only need 1. So one of those could be converted into an accessible washroom. Like there are solutions in some of the places, but it is getting from the street to inside that like we would have to get some kind of, like under those stairs is all concrete right now. We'd have to get someone to like excavate, maybe remove a portion. Or if I could take a portion of my landlord's space upstairs, we'd love to look at it at some point, but it is super cost prohibitive and like it doesn't mean it shouldn't happen, but at least in terms of anything I do going forward, it'll always, in anything new, it will always be addressed. And so at Danforth, we have a lift going into the space that we'll go to the lower level where the studios are.
There's a lower level.
So it goes to the lower level where the studios are. At street level, there are, the buttons for the doors to open automatically. There are, things that there's a variety of tables. So some are at lower heights. There's like the consideration of like what height, where you like the counter is when you're paying for a ticket to tap at the counter, like all these things that meet there's code. There are code recommendations within the building code that tell you like this should be at 1100 millimeters. They do everything in millimeters. I don't know why. I guess because it's more precise. So there's that, but then the lift also goes up a couple feet and connects directly to the dressing room backstage. So, that will be locked unless you are,
performing.
Unless you are performing, so that you don't just someone can't just wander backstage during a show. But for when it's needed, it goes to that level, and then everything backstage is on the same level.
That's so cool. That's so exciting. I know so many. I know. Well, not so many people, but I know people who will be very excited about that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it too. I think again, like I said, I when we started the business, like I was a kid, and it wasn't a consideration. Like, and
You just wanted to bring people out to have a good comedy time, but now, yeah. I mean, I guess when we see your role in the community as I don't know, as a leader in the comedy community, it's awesome to see you're considering it and you're actually putting, implementing ways to make it work for everybody.
In the meantime, at Comedy Bar in the West End, we've tried to, because not everything is about physical accessibility. Like
Right.
that is a huge one, but we've also done, sensory friendly shows and some things like that to address some other, accessibility concerns. Right. So, I mean, the world's made up of all types of people, and,
That's for sure. Yeah.
try to, make it work for everyone.
And when is the space on the Danforth opening up? Do we know? Do we have an official date?
We're getting close.
Okay.
We're hoping to
We need
announce
that HVAC.
Yeah, that shows up this week, which is good. The work is fast and furious right now. Like there's a lot of crews on site, in all the different subcontractor departments getting stuff done, and we're hoping to be able to make an announcement in about a week or so.
That must be good because Second City's using it. They must be chipping in to a certain degree. I don't know if that's the kind of thing you're allowed to talk about. I was going to say, compared to when you had to gut Comedy Bar and it was just kind of you and James, the evolution of it, the process hopefully is a little bit easier, maybe easier, better. No, not at all. Okay.
No lessons were learned. From that perspective, it just started to make sense that because, the York Street project for various reasons was delayed, because of COVID and because of the sale and stuff like that, timing wise, it was going to take a little longer to get them up there. And, we just, I mean, if Comedy Bar wasn't already open in the West End, it, might be a different conversation we're having, but it's like, I mean, Second City is so historically significant to comedy in Canada and in Toronto, and I think it's important to have it back open, and and it services a whole segment of the community that in a different way than Comedy Bar does. And so for us, I think just to to be able to in the future go like, hey, remember when Second City was here, and like it becomes like a part of the fabric of that space in a neat way, and it gets those actors back to work, and those and people back taking classes and things like that. So stuff that otherwise we be this gap until next year sometime. And it's like, to me, there's more balance and more value to the comedy community as a whole. It makes the community more whole in general.
I like that. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Look to the comedy karma.
Well, we've kind of gone through the same thing. I don't know if you remember, but at one point, when Bad Dog's lease had, sort of like their landlord sort of doubled their rent overnight kind of thing on the Danforth, and they, were out of that space. And my friend Julie had just sort of started to run it, and I was like, well, we just finished building this cabaret room and Comedy Bar. You guys can come do stuff here. And that was like, it was just sort of to keep it going, and to bring everything together. And so they ran there for a bit. They needed more. They grew, like it helped them like stabilize, and they were growing, and we were growing a Comedy Bar. They needed more space. We needed more space. And we had, on a sort of side adventure, we had started Baltic as this like nightclub thing we were going to try.
Right.
We hated that. And then we were like, hey, if we make this a theater, do you guys want to go there? And Bad Dog was like, yeah. And so then, we converted it into Bad Dog, and they moved down the street. And, so in the same way, I just feel like, helping the community is kind of good for everyone. And my job at Second City is in business development, and this felt like it sort of like made
developing businesses.
It was just like a good match for both of us for the short term, to see brands succeed. I mean, everything is kind of consolidated to get through COVID, and so if we can partner on this in the short term and have them as our resident company, I mean, that's an honor for us. And
feel the dodge that you guys have each other's back. Isn't that nice? It's so nice to see in happening in real time.
also York Street is so big and so ambitious that I think, being able to go into that with some momentum and rather than going from scratch, I think is really important for Second City to have success in that space as well. And so part of that is, being able to build and grow the team for Second City as it moves it towards that. So, keeping content going and having casts up and running and shows ready for day one when we get in there just launches us on the right foot.
I think people will be stoked about seeing it go from one place to the brand new space, and then people will be excited to be like, finally I could see just like a great stand-up show in this new space on Danforth. Like, the hype is for sure going to be there.
York Street's going to be wild. Like, I can't even explain how.
I can't wait.
It's a mecca. It's just so cool.
It's gonna have that new comedy smell, which everyone loves.
Yeah. Well, amazing. Gary, this is so exciting, and it's so exciting to see such great stuff happening, and how incredibly, I don't know how much we all owe to you sort of being behind the scenes running all of this stuff. So huge thank you on behalf of all of the comedians.
I think it's a thank you to all of the comedians because they chose to embrace it, and they could have not done that too. We could have remained a community of people all doing our own thing in a bunch of different places, and we decided to rally around one thing. And the fact that it's like my thing doesn't change that it's like not everybody's thing. Like, everyone had to make that choice. So that's what makes it work.
That makes my heart feel full.
It's just great that it exists. It's like a good thing that it's out there.
But how can people follow you and keep in touch and make sure to keep an eye on the progress at Comedy Bar and your own kind of endeavors?
I've got an ICQ. We don't post too much. You can go on the Comedy Bar Instagram account. We don't. We post little teasers and hints on there. We had to do that a little bit because we had to post for our liquor license. You have to put a sign on the outside. It's all boarded up right now because they're doing construction inside. But like, we had to put that sign there, and we're like, someone's gonna see it. So, but we had to start stacking. So, so there will be a little bit on there. That's sort of it, is like, check out Instagram and secondcity.com. We're hoping to be able to have information out to people as soon as possible, hopefully the end of next week, but it could be later than that. So it'll be tuned. I literally go by I'm at the construction site every day and talking to our general contractor and going, what do you think? We just want to pick the date once. We don't have to to be able to put tickets on sale or get things selling. You can't then like shift it on everybody. So you're trying to predict something that is almost impossible to predict. At least give yourself enough room that some flexibility in there. We'd all love to have unlimited time for them to finish the work and for us to like wander around in its glory before it's like, I'm sure we'll be hammering nails as the friends are walking in the door. So, and that's certainly how it was last time. So I don't see it.
Well, at least consistency is key here, Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Gary. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. Nick, do you have anything else before we leave it today? What do you think?
Just be prepared to go to the bathroom with a tarp around you if you have to do it.
You got to, sometimes that's what you got to do. All right, thanks.
I'll bring the blue tarp just in case.
Oh yeah. We should frame it, at least a small part of it, in homage. Well, thank you, Gary. We like to sign off by saying struggle on. Would you mind saying struggle on before we go?
Struggle on.
Yay. Thank you. Bye, Gary.
Thanks. Bye.
That was
solid episode, Brie.
An episode. Yes, it was. Thank you to Gary for coming. And oh my goodness, I see a dog. Just like the dog just like the dog in Gary's speech. There's a speech in Gary's interview. There's also a dog. I'm looking at a dog right now. But folks at home, you can't see. She's being very happy and very cute. Aww.
She's coming to check on me. She can probably hear me talking.
She's like, who are you talking to?
What's going on up there?
Give me all the deets. Nick, what did you like the most about this episode?
Learning about what's coming up. Like, and sorry, first of all, learning that Gary's a nice dude.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Like he's trying his best out there to get everyone some stage time so everyone can have fun and laugh.
Yeah.
And, you know, building more stages helps that.
No kidding. No kidding.
It's exciting. Like,
yeah, because
the
it's
Second
not
City
easy
buildings.
to do that, especially in Toronto. You know what I mean? Like the real estate's so crazy, and just like putting all this stuff together is not easy. So, you know, like whenever you see Gary, give him a high five.
Mm-hmm. And he seems pumped about the new Second City thing.
Yeah.
Building.
The
Palais de Comédie.
Oh man, that's gonna be exciting. I'm excited for that.
And I'm happy for like a second comedy bar.
Yeah.
It's like, it's one of those things I didn't know I wanted until I knew I was getting it. I was like, well, yes, please.
Why not? Yeah. Something could be going on one side of town that you're like, meh. And then on the other side of town, you're like, oh, you have options.
Yeah.
So
but like,
options.
you know, it's taking that one step closer to the New York model of you go to the one out east, then you come into town, and then maybe you go to someplace else. You get a couple sets in a night there, Brie.
Yeah, I mean that already exists, but it's fun that it's both going to be like that. It's another location, another place dedicated strictly to comedy, and that hopefully it'll have kind of similar vibes, good vibes to the one on the West End. So yeah, I'm excited for that too. Yeah, I can't wait to see that one, to see both of the new spaces. I'm very excited. Yeah. Well, like he said, if you're interested in what in these big projects, you're going to check out for sure. Check out Comedy Bar's Instagram or their website to find out what shows are going on. If you're more interested in listings and that kind of stuff, go straight to their website. And if you're interested in, you know, what's coming up with the Second City, be sure to check out thesecondcity.com. And I'm sure, like Gary said, there's going to be some announcements coming out pretty soon about this.
And you could you might even see Brie there every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, especially when we start doing classes in person again, which we haven't quite done. But yeah, once that happens again,
I feel like we're getting closer.
As soon as that happens, I can't wait to be able to offer some in-person classes back at Second City, because that is a dream.
Let's freaking go.
Woo! In the meantime, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you enjoyed it, share it liberally, you know, widely and longly. What?
Yep.
And follow us on all the social medias. Well, not all of them. Only Facebook, The Constant Struggle Podcast, and Twitter at Struggle Pod.
Yeah, we got the Twitters. Yep.
Yeah, at Struggle Pod. Check out the website, constantstrugglepodcast.podbean.com for more episodes in our back catalogs and a bunch of other awesome interviews we've done in the past, similar to the one that we did today with Gary. What else, Nick?
I don't know, Brie. I suppose you could just struggle on.
You could struggle on.
Ta-ta!